On today's show, Sam Merrill going to miss tonight's game against the Boston Celtics because of a right hip contusion. We'll talk about that injury, what it means for the Cavs, and who should start in his place. We'll discuss all that and so much more on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot. Thank you for making another edition of Locked On Cavs your first listen, and thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Please make sure you're subscribed. It is the best way to help grow the show. And we're on YouTube as well, so if you're watching right now, do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. Proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Cavs got the news, or released the news, I guess would be more accurately to say, on Tuesday, that Sam Merrill is ruled out for Wednesday's game against the Boston Celtics with a right hip contusion. Merrill, of course, sustained the injury against the Detroit Pistons on Monday night. He played right around 18 minutes, I believe his final box score number was. Did not return after, I believe he played one stint in the second half, and then did not return after that. So this obviously has some effects on the starting lineup. I think it has effects on the way the Cavs look. And I think that they are going to miss, while Sam is out, whether it's for tonight, whether it's for tonight and Friday when they play the Raptors, through Sunday against the Hawks, next week when they play the Sixers. Like, I don't know as of right now how much time Sam Merrill is going to miss. All I know is that he's not going to be available on Wednesday. He did appear like he was in pain in the locker room after the game on Monday night in Detroit. He had some medical device that was working on his hip. I presume it was a stim unit, but I don't know that. So we'll see how long this takes. And as I have said, whether it's been with Darius's injury or Max's injury or DeAndre's injury, the Cavs are going to be conservative as far as these things go, because they want to be healthy when it counts. And for as important as I think certain aspects of the basketball games right now are for the Cavs, in terms of building their identity and doing things the right way and building the correct habits and becoming a better defensive team, which we will talk about later on in today's show, ultimately, these games are nowhere near the most important ones the Cavs will play this year. So they're going to, as Kenny Atkinson said earlier this season, they're going to err on the side of caution here. They're going to make sure that guys are fully ready to be back and ready to perform at their peak level before they're back on the floor in game situations. So maybe that means Sam Merrill is not playing tonight because of that. Maybe it means Sam Merrill is going to miss an extra game or two on the back end of this injury because of that. I don't know how long this is going to be. We don't have some sort of firm timetable that I'm aware of as I record this late on Tuesday night. So we will have to wait and see. But obviously, Sam in the first 4 games has been in the starting lineup. He has played, I think, very, very well through 4 games. He's been a bright spot offensively for a Cavs offense that really hasn't necessarily been all that good. Like, they are a middle of the pack offense right now, which is fine. I do think that they know there are levels they can get to offensively, and I think they know how to get to those levels. I do think it's hard to get there without Darius Garland, certainly, but I'm not concerned. And I don't think you should be concerned whatsoever about how the Cavs offense looks right now. I think the defense is the thing to pay attention to, and that's why I want to talk about that a little bit later. But without Sam Merrill, it does mean that the Cavs are going to have to make a starting lineup change. Now, they've already used a couple of different starting lineups because DeAndre Hunter did not play in the first 2 games, and then he has played in the 2 games since. So now they're going to be going to their 3rd starting lineup in 5 games, which you would like to have more consistency, but there's sometimes just nothing that you can do as far as injuries go. I think here the Cavs have 3 different options that they can go to replace Sam in the starting lineup tonight and maybe even moving forward. Now, I will say, until Darius Garland gets back, when Sam Merrill is healthy, I do think he should be in the starting lineup. I think he's a great fit. And I also look at this and say, of the guys that are available right now, I think he's the best option. I think he's the best fit, and I think he's the best basketball player too. And I think that has proven itself so far. Yes, very, very small sample size, but he's been one of the best 3-point shooters in basketball early on in the season. So that is certainly a very good thing that you like to see from Sam. But I think that the 3 options that the Cavs have to replace him in the starting lineup while he misses time with injury are Jaylon Tyson, Craig Porter Jr., and Dean Wade. And I want to start with Tyson because I do think that is the most likely outcome here. If we think back to the preseason, and the preseason doesn't matter that much, right? But there are things we can take away from it. And let's think back to that first preseason game where Kenny Atkinson played the Cavs starting five sans Sam because Sam was out with an injury, and he just substituted guys five at a time. So you only saw that first starting five with each other. You didn't see them played with any other bench players. But Jaylon Tyson started in that game. Jaylon Tyson started in the second game in which Sam missed. And then Sam was back for the fourth and final preseason game, the third preseason game against these Boston Celtics the Cavs will face tonight. None of the starters played. So there's not, I do think it's worth reading a little bit into what happened as far as how can he change the starting lineup. And playing Jaylon Tyson at the 2, I think is a little bit of a better fit than playing him at the 3 right now, just with what his skill set is. I think the fact that he is somebody that is defending guards on the opposition and pressuring guys full court, I just do think works better as a shooting guard as opposed to a small forward. And I don't know if, I've not been overly impressed with Tyson at the start of the season, but I do wonder if he will fit better playing alongside a bigger lineup. If you're playing him at shooting guard instead of small forward, where he's out there with DeAndre Hunter, with Evan Mobley, with Jared Allen at the start of the game, I wonder if that just sets him up for a different level of success as opposed to having him be the starting small forward, which he was when DeAndre Hunter missed the first couple of games. Because I do look at that, and yeah, he spent a lot of time on Jalen Brunson, but I think that shifts some other things around in other places. And maybe Boston obviously is so much different than the New York team or the Brooklyn team that Tyson has started against so far this year. I think it's pretty fair to say they're just sort of right in the middle of those two teams, but even stylistically, they are a different team. And they're a team that doesn't necessarily have a lot of size in the front court. I think it's fair to say that is where they're very weak right now. So maybe the Cavs starting with Tyson at the 2 does give them a bit more of an advantage. I think that offensively, he's looked a little bit unsure of himself, but playing alongside some other guys in DeAndre Hunter and Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, like that could make the pressure on him on that end, could alleviate that a little bit. And I think it might be able to accentuate some of the things that he does well on the defensive end of the floor. I think this is the most likely starting 5. I think this is also probably the starting 5 that upsets the apple cart the least. And what I mean by that is sometimes when you see a guy that is out, you will see his replacement in the starting line. When you see a starter that's out, you will sometimes see the replacement for said starter be somebody that's not even in the rotation, right? Like this guy could have gotten a DNP coach's decision the night before, but because so-and-so is out in the starting lineup, he's in the starting lineup the very next night. And part of the reason why that is done is it keeps everybody else in line rotationally. Because I do think for the most part, maybe it's a little bit less in basketball, but I think for the most part, professional athletes tend to be creatures of habit. They like to know when they're going to be coming out of the game, when they're going to be going into the game, who they're going to be playing alongside. They like to be able to find that rhythm. And I don't know, because of some of the injuries that the Cavs have had so far this year, because the rotations look different than they have last year, particularly with Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, I don't know that they've quite found that rhythm just yet, which that's totally okay. It's October 29th right now as we talk about this. So they don't need to be in that rhythm. They don't need to have that comfort level. But I do think that the more changes that we have, and there are going to be several more changes, because at some point Darius Garland's going to be back, and guess what? That's going to change things a lot. At some point Max Strus is going to be back, and that's going to change things a lot too. But I do think that right now, with the number of guys that they have out, the fewest changes rotationally that they can have might be for the better. I think Jaylon Tyson doesn't do a ton as far as changing the way that things look for other guys. And I think that the fact that he started 2 preseason games when Sam was out probably tells us that he's the most likely guy to start in Sam Merrill's place on Wednesday night against the Boston Celtics. Now, there are 2 other options that I think could start for the Cavs in this game. And there's a third one that it won't happen, but I'd really, really like to see it. We'll talk about what those are next right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that can help to make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. You've heard me talk about it before. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard about, but it just has a new name. And here's why it matters. Because every missed call is money left on the table. Even every customer conversation counts. You need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or on your computer. So no more carrying two phones. What a hassle, right? Who wants to have two phones? One phone is enough. Sometimes one phone feels like it's too much. But with Quo, you don't need two phones. You've got one phone because that's all you need. And you won't need to rely on a landline either because it's 2025 and that's just not how the world works anymore. Quo lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. Plus, their built-in AI agent is a game changer because it can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving forward even when you're off the clock. So see why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, again, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That is QUO.com/lockedonnba. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today's show is also brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier. But now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad. Software as a disservice. And that is exactly why you need Rippling. Rippling is a unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, most importantly, control. Rippling removes the bottlenecks and busy work that slow teams down. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's simple to use, gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything that they touch. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill in the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. So right now, you can get a free 6 months with Rippling when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnba. That is rippling.com/lockedonnba, LOCKEDON NBA. Again, rippling.com/lockedonnba for 6 months free. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On Cavs your first listen, and thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every single day. The other two options that I think the Cavs realistically have to start in place of Sam Merrill are Craig Porter Jr. and Dean Wade. And I want to talk about what a starting lineup with Dean Wade would look like first, because Dean would obviously not be starting at the shooting guard in Sam's place. Dean would be starting at the small forward, and DeAndre Hunter would then slide down to be essentially an oversized shooting guard. And this, I think, could create a very, very interesting look for the Cavs. And if I'm not mistaken, we saw this lineup very, very briefly in the fourth preseason game that the Cavs played. I know we saw DeAndre Hunter at the 2-guard minutes. I believe this is what it was. It may have been Larry Nance at the 4 and Evan Mobley at the 5, but I do know that we did see DeAndre Hunter minutes at the 2-guard. I think that this could be like a matchup specific type of lineup. And I say that because the Boston Celtics so far have not been a very good rebounding team. I would not anticipate them being a very good rebounding team. And if you go back and listen to the Locked On Cavs whip around episode from earlier this week, where John Corrales, who does a great job covering the Boston Celtics, came on, he talked about the Celtics rebounding deficiencies. Well, if Dean Wade's in the starting lineup, what does that do? It makes the Cavs about as big as they could possibly be, because you've got Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, Dean Wade, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen is your starting 5. There's not a starting 5, save for maybe Houston, that has that kind of size in it. And I think that would give the Cavs the ability to really, really rebound at a high level. And I also think defend at a high level to start the game off to. Because if you look at that, where's the weak spot defensively? It's Donovan Mitchell, who I do think has been solid defensively so far this year. He's not anything close to an all defense level player, but I think he's been fine defensively at the start of the year. And I just think that the Cavs can withstand that. Like if he's your weak link, you're going to be really, really good on that end of the floor. And I think that Dean is, while Sam, I do think is a good defender. I think he's a plus defender. Dean is a different type of defender, but I don't know that the Boston Celtics necessarily have guys that could really hurt that, right? Like Derek White, obviously a very good player. Peyton Pritchard, been a good player. Jaylen Brown, very, very good player. But I just think that the size that the Cavs have, if they were to go with that starting lineup on Wednesday night, could cause a lot of problems for the Boston Celtics. I think it'd be a great rebounding lineup. Obviously, there are 3.5 really good shooters in that lineup. I do think that Dean's been more aggressive too so far this year. And I think Evan Mobley, his shot just hasn't quite been there yet this year, but I do think it will get there. And that's not to say it hasn't been great. Like he had 4 threes against the Knicks on opening night. So it's been okay. It's just like and I want to talk about Evan Mobley actually a little bit more coming up in just a second. But I do think that the downside to this kind of goes along with what I talked about in the first segment. If Dean Wade starts, that bench does become thinner because Dean, I do think, has gotten off to a good start this year. I think he's been aggressive. I think he's made quicker decisions. I think he's done a lot of the things that I've talked about that have been his downfall, I guess, over the past couple of years. And that is good, and that needs to keep up, and that has made him valuable coming off the bench. But if you move him off the bench, and obviously you don't have Sam, obviously you don't have Darius, obviously you don't have Max, the bench just, you run out of guys pretty quick. And that's going to be the case no matter who you add in. But it's not just that you run out of guys. It's that, well, you really don't have much else in the front court. Like the only other real front court player, because you look at Jaylon Tyson, like he is a 2-3, but I kind of wonder if he's better at the 2. You've got Craig Porter Jr., who I'll talk about in a second. He's a 1-2. You've got Tyrese Proctor. He's a 1-2. And you've got Larry Nance, who is a 4-5. So, and Lonzo Ball, who is a 1, maybe like 1-3. But you don't have a lot of front court options. So I do think that could be the downside of moving Dean into the starting lineup in this scenario, which again, I don't think will happen. But I would like to see it. Like, I think that would be a fun lineup that realistically could start. The Cavs would be huge, and I think it would be really, really cool. Craig Porter Jr. is the one that I think actually might make the most sense. I don't know if it's the most likely one, but I think Craig starting in place of Sam Merrill might make the most sense. And this actually slides Donovan Mitchell more to his natural shooting guard position as opposed to the point guard spot that he's been starting at. I do think Craig has played relatively well over the past 3 games. I thought he was not good against the New York Knicks. Even like, I don't think his first stint against the Nets was very good, but since then, I think he's been really, really good. And I look at this and say it could put the Cavs, it could put Donovan Mitchell where he should be positionally. I think Craig has had a pretty good command offensively. It gives them a guy in the starting lineup they can have that can hound Boston's guards, right? Because we've talked about what the ball pressure the Cavs that they want to put on opponents' backcourts. If Dean is out there, I'm not sure you have the guy doing that. Jaylen will do that. Craig will do that. I'm not sure you have that with Dean, and maybe that's another downside to it. But I think that this could also take some of the pressure off of Donovan Mitchell, which obviously is, I think, a good thing at all times. Like, Donovan has a lot on his shoulders. He's been, I think, fantastic to start this season so far. But putting him alongside a starting point guard, the way that he will be when Darius Garland gets back, if you can do it for a game, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. And 2, Craig is a very good rebounder. And I talked about the Boston Celtics not being a good rebounding team because that is an area where they're really going to struggle. Having a guard that can go get rebounds, I think, is a very, very beneficial thing. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen. I also look at it too and say, with Lonzo Ball back and playing on Wednesday night, because he did not play on Monday against the Pistons, I think that Lonzo might be able to play a few minutes, and he's been around 22-ish minutes, 23 minutes. Like, can he play 26 on Wednesday night? I don't know if the Cavs want to do that. He has looked to me like somebody capable of doing that. I don't know if that's something they want to do. But if Craig's in the starting lineup, then I don't know that it messes with the rotation all that much, because then Lonzo Ball just might play a little bit more and Craig might play a little bit more, but I don't know that it messes entirely with the rotations if Craig Porter Jr. is in the starting lineup, because you've got Lonzo Ball. That's going to be one of the first subs off the bench when Donovan Mitchell goes to the bench. And then Craig Porter Jr. can just play a little bit more, and Lonzo could play a little bit more. I think there's a way that they could figure it out. Now, I talked about a lineup that is not going to happen, but it's the lineup that I would love to see. And that is, what if they just put Lonzo Ball in the starting lineup? We'll talk about what that would look like and why I would love to see it next, right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I want you to be at peak performance, and Peloton will help to get you there. The Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. The swivel screen is a game changer because you can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. Plus, the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged, and you get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each and every week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That is OnePeloton.com. Again, onepeloton.com. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On Cavs your first watch on YouTube. And if you are watching, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. The Cavs won't be starting Lonzo Ball, or I shouldn't say that. I don't know that. Maybe they do. I would be very, very surprised if that's the case, because I do think the Cavs want to keep Lonzo Ball locked into the role that he's in, because long-term, that is what his role is going to look like. And I don't think they want to overly tax him with being a starter, because if he does play, if he is a starter, like, there's a world where he ends up playing 31, 32, 33 minutes. And I don't think that the Cavs want that to be a reality, but I would love to see it. I would love to see what Lonzo Ball looks like alongside the rest of the starting lineup right now, because I do think there's going to be a time where the Cavs might need him to play alongside DeAndre Hunter, alongside Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. We've not really seen that. And yes, he's only played 3 games. It's very, very small sample size. I have liked what I've seen from Lonzo so far. I think he's been a big boost coming off the bench. I think that the Cavs play with a style that is very fun and very different. And it is a great change of pace that they have. And I just think it could make a lot of sense to see that lineup play together. I don't necessarily expect it to happen, but I would like to see him play with that starting group. And I'm not saying that it even should happen, because I understand the downsides. And 2, we've talked about defensive pressure. And for as good as of a defender Lonzo is, I don't know. And I asked Kenny about this. I don't remember which game it was before, where basically they have guys that are in different buckets, he said, about who you want to put pressure on opposing guards full court, who you don't. Like when Sam Merrill is playing 30 minutes a night, it's hard to ask him to do that for 30 minutes a night. They're not going to ask Darius Garland to do that for 33 minutes a night. They don't ask Donovan Mitchell to do that for 33 minutes a night. Like, those guys might do it a possession here, a possession there, but it's not worth it to ask them to do it every single time down the court. Like, they're going to get exhausted, and they're going to be diminishing returns on that. Lonzo Ball, I don't think, is somebody that you can ask to do that a ton, because you're not getting the best out of him if you're expending a lot of energy there doing that. So I do think that there are other guys that make a little bit more sense, but I would really like to see him get minutes with that group. I think that is something that would be beneficial to the Cavs, both in the near term and in the long term. I also wanted to talk today about a couple of things that I like what I've seen from the Cavs 4 games in, because everything is a small sample size. It's a very, very small sample size so far. But I have really liked what I've seen from the Cavs defensively. And I talked going into the season about how the Cavs needed to be a better defensive team than they were last year. They finished 8th in defense last year, which is good. And I think that the common thought is that if a team is top 10, both in offense and defense, they're a championship caliber team. I tend to view it, and I wrote about this on my Substack for yesterday morning. I tend to view it more so if a team is top 5 in both offense and defense, they've got a really good chance to win the championship. Last year, Oklahoma City had the number 1 defense in basketball by a wide margin. They were fantastic defensively. And guess what? They have the number 1 defense in basketball through the first week and a half. No surprise. They were also 3rd offensively. The year before that, the Boston Celtics had the number 1 offense, not just in the NBA, but in NBA history. They also had the number 2 defense in basketball. No surprise, they won the title. Last year, the Cavs had the best offense in basketball, the 2nd best offense in NBA history, but they had the 8th best defense. They did not win the title, right? Like, I look at this and say they need to improve on the defensive end of the floor. And right now, they're a middle of the pack offense, and that's fine. They will get healthy and go on a run, and their offense, when it starts clicking on all cylinders, I think we all know what this offense can be, and there should be nobody that's worried about what they look like on the offensive end of the floor right now. I think they're trying some new things. I almost look at it like, think of what the defense was last year, where they were a middle of the pack defense. They got better at times. They got worse at times. And they sort of said, well, we're just trying a lot of things. We're seeing what we can do right now and how that can translate into the postseason when we get there. I think they're doing that right now offensively a little bit. Part of it, too, is they don't have Darius Garland, and this offense at times without Darius has looked pretty rough. Like, it has not been, I don't think, the easiest watch on the eyes so far this year, what they've been doing offensively. Not having Max, I think, has hurt them. Like, they're missing that connector at times. Evan has been good, but not great. And I think they've expected him to maybe be a little bit better on that end of the floor at the start of the season. And I think all of those things will right themselves at a certain point. Like last year, I do think it was fair to maybe doubt the whole, well, we're trying things defensively. But because I think this group has proven how good they can be offensively and to how consistently great they were offensively last year, I think that there should be no concern about this. Like, we know what they're capable of on that end of the floor, certainly in the regular season. So they're trying things on that end. But the fact that they are leaning into defense, they're 6th in the NBA in defensive rating. And this is before the late game is done. I don't expect this to necessarily change, but they're 6th right now in defensive rating as I record this. They're also 3rd in steals, and that in steals per game. That to me is a really good sign because they are putting pressure on teams. They're creating turnovers in the backcourt. They're a team that even like they were up by 30 against the Pistons the other night, and Craig Porter Jr. was still pressuring like 85 feet away from the basket. And they're going to turn into a team if they continue to do this. They're going to turn into a team that nobody wants to play because of how good they are defensively. And last year they were a team that I don't know that anybody like it was nobody wants to play because they were great offensively. I mean, historically good offensively, but those games can kind of be fun because like, can we keep up if you're an opponent, right? Like if you are the Boston Celtics last year, it's like, can we outscore the Cavs, right? Like it's going to be tough to get stops against them, but their defense isn't necessarily anything that's terrifying. Where this year, if the Cavs can have a better defense and that offense will come around, because I do really, really believe it will come around, then I think you get to the point where it's like, you know what, playing the Cavs is a real pain, not just because of what they're capable of offensively, but because of how good they are defensively as well. The other thing that I like that I just wanted to touch on briefly here is Evan Mobley so far on the offensive end of the floor. It's not looked great, but I like that he's been aggressive. I like that he has been trying to find ways to get to the basket. I like that he's had a few turnovers, like the fact that he's trying these things, and it's not looked as good as I expected it to look. But I also like that he's been getting to the free throw line That's been a big part of his game. He's not been very efficient. I do think at times he looks a little bit uncomfortable. But if he is uncomfortable, I would rather him, as he tries to find this balance, I would rather him err on the side of aggression. And I think that is one of the things that we have seen so far from Evan. And it's not going to be like this all year. I think offensively, things will get easier for him as he goes. I also think when Darius Garland gets back and he's not asked to carry the team for these stretches, even though I do think he should be capable of it, I just think his life will get easier and he will start to look much better offensively. It's been a bit of a rough start, but I really do like the aggressiveness that he's played with on that end of the floor. I think if nothing else, that's a very, very good sign. Now, that's going to do it for today's show. As I said, Cavs play the Boston Celtics tonight, game number 5. They are 3-1, looking to go to 4-1. No Sam Merrill, no Darius Garland, no Max Strus. Naquan Tomlin also out as part of his two-way assignment. We will see what the Cavs look like. Should be a fun game. The Celtics have not necessarily been a very good team so far this year, but they still do have some talent on that roster. So after the game where to go. Locked on Cavs, first thing tomorrow morning. I will have you covered wherever you get your podcast talking about this game, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that episode. And I will also, of course, be available on YouTube. And if you're watching this video right now, as we get out of here, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked on Cavs content. And I'll be back tomorrow talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.